Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 227 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about better investments than Bitcoin. And so this might confuse or make some of the Bitcoin maxis mad, but there are better investments than Bitcoin. And I'm not even just talking about MicroStrategy. They have basically a monopoly on Bitcoin accumulation, so they're going to do better than Bitcoin, probably. Um, but that doesn't mean that it's quote unquote okay to have no Bitcoin. So there's a basic insurance policy of Bitcoin I think that every person needs. It's almost kind of like if you live near a hurricane, you got to have water bottles and some food and a generator just to be ready for uncertainty. So there's a certain amount of Bitcoin I think that everybody has to have at a minimum in order to, you know, flee the country with your passphrase in your brain wallet or whatever. Um, Whatever kind of doomsday prepper scenario you can imagine, Bitcoin is an essential part of that, and nothing can replace that. But if I'm just talking about investing and returns, there are going to be better investments. So while it's true, you can just adopt a Bitcoin only strategy. There's nothing wrong with that. For now, what is it, like a 45% returns or something on average? Those probably will decrease slightly over the next few decades. I don't know when it's going to, really just kind of taper off and become much less volatile. But for now, any business or any investment opportunity has to compete with that. So if you can't get 45% increases year over year, then Bitcoin is better. And yeah, like off the top of my head, there's not a lot of companies that I can imagine are going to do that well. And I follow and my page is filled with, TradFi investors, dividend investors, and they're like, "Oh, what's the top stocks and what do you think about Nvidia and what do you think about freaking Microsoft and even like Chipotle and Costco and all this other horseshit." And I don't think any of those are necessarily going to be able to outpace Bitcoin unless they adopt Bitcoin as their treasury reserve strategy. They don't even have to follow the Michael Saylor playbook where they're just like, okay, let me just leverage myself to the max and use every dollar of my business's income to take on debt to the point where I'm basically just putting every penny of profit into paying the paying the interest on my debts that I've used to buy Bitcoin with. I don't think they have to run that playbook. I think they only just have to say, we're not going to hold cash. We're going to hold Bitcoin and we're going to continue to stack Bitcoin with our profits. And this isn't really even my own idea. So I should get that out of the way. I've been listening to a lot of Jeff Booth lately, and this was something that he mentioned. But I think it's pretty relevant right now because everybody's up in the air about Saylor on Safe's podcast, and Saylor's talking about getting 5% yield. And that's, to a certain extent, that doesn't make any sense when Bitcoin is getting 45%. But in 50 years, if Bitcoin's only getting 10%, and you're retired and you don't want to deal with Bitcoin going up and down and up and down, and you're like, okay, it's going up 10%, but I'll just take 5 with no volatility. There are some people who would probably be willing to make that trade, because if they're able to live comfortably on 5%, maybe that's a fine decision for them. But anyway, that's a sidebar conversation that I didn't mean to have. The point really is that there have to be opportunities to make more, better returns than Bitcoin. Otherwise, all commerce would stop. Like, nobody would ever have an idea, or there would be never any venture capitalists or entrepreneurs that would ever invest in anything if there's no chance of getting more than the 45% that Bitcoin is going to return. The money would just dry up and there would be no innovation, and the human race could just go extinct. So there are going to be examples, like somebody's going to come up with a cure for cancer or whatever, and I'm pretty sure all of these maxis that say you never sell your Bitcoin, if they had cancer and somebody had the cure and they're like, hey, I'm going to need 0.1 Bitcoin so I can dish you out this cure, they're going to sell their frickin' Bitcoin. So don't be fooled by the never sell your Bitcoin claims. And so there are going to be things that are more valuable than Bitcoin, and anybody that can come up with that idea, that, if you can come up with something that humankind finds valuable, you provide a service to your fellow man, that value will be purchased gladly by other parties. And I thought about just tweeting this out, but I'll just say it now. I bastardized this quote, and the old version is, every dollar that you spend is a vote for how you want the world to be. And I would say that every Satoshi you spend is a vote for the kind of world that you want. So while I agree you don't sell your Bitcoin just for fiat, but you do spend your Bitcoin. You spend it on anything that's more valuable than the friggin' Bitcoin. So I think as a prerequisite though, the companies are going to have to stack Bitcoin. So they're going to have to be good ideas and be orange pilled. If it's just making money, I don't think those companies will be able to keep up with Bitcoin. But if they're orange pilled and they're stacking sats, you're going to get the appreciation from their Bitcoin holdings and whatever service they're providing to humanity. So if you can come up with the cure for cancer and you're going to, stack sats along with it, that's win-win. And that investing in that company would probably provide better returns than Bitcoin alone. So that may sound like heresy, but is, in my opinion, and it's not financial advice, but to me, that's the future. Now, there are precious few companies that have done this, but all of the ones that don't go out of business are going to have to. The next most famous one, besides MicroStrategy and all the mining companies, obviously, is probably SMLR. I don't personally invest in it, but once they get options, it may be something that I would do in a smaller account. I'm also eagerly anticipating the ETFs getting options. I generally don't favor them because I think they're going to underperform simply because you have to pay them a management fee. So I would rather invest in a company that's stacking sats and running Saylor's playbook than I would the ETFs. but I will definitely be checking out the premiums. If the premiums make sense, I will absolutely trade the ETFs in my small account. But if something like SMLR or another company that comes along, if their premiums are still king, then that's probably the way that I'll be going. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. I know it's heresy to some of the laser-eyed maxis, but it's got to happen, and it's actually a good thing because we're currently stuck in the system that extracts value instead of rewarding us for providing value to each other. And of course, the rich and powerful are able to extract from everyone beneath them. And Bitcoin is basically imposing a free market on everyone. And at some point, everybody with the best ideas will get the most rewards. And I believe that Bitcoin will start flowing into the hands of people who provide the most value. So I'm trying to stay alive for as long as possible because I want to live to see the kind of world that we will be living in when the old system is uh, is minimized and Bitcoin has imposed the free market on the world. And can't wait. Can't wait for the future, and can't wait for some of these opportunities to present themselves. Uh, for now, it's Bitcoin, and I would say probably Bitcoin is only about 10% of my holdings. MicroStrategy is probably 85, and then Tesla's maybe like 5 or something. I got a piddly few little miners in my small account um, that I really don't have a choice to utilize, since that 5K challenge wouldn't even get you 100 shares of MicroStrategy. But um, yeah, I think having just once you check off, okay, I've got enough Bitcoin to to stave off not necessarily the zombie apocalypse, because maybe Bitcoin would be irrelevant at that point, and it would just be food and bullets. But anything short of going back 1,000 years, getting nuked into the Stone Ages or something, as long as we still have electricity and the miners are still running, I think a certain amount of Bitcoin is required in order to position yourself for all eventualities. But I'm not the type of person that says, "Oh yeah, you just gotta, you gotta eat frickin' Costco hot dogs every day and stack sats with every single penny." I think once you're off zero, you got a little bit of Bitcoin. I I think you could just do whatever the hell you want with the rest. And really, it gives me a lot of confidence to take chances and do whatever the hell I want with the rest of my money, because I know I've got a little bit of Bitcoin that I can break glass in case of emergency, and I won't be starving. So with that, um, I'm excited about the future, and looking forward to a lot of other opportunities that will present themselves as a result of Bitcoin. So even the things that are bigger than Bitcoin will be made possible by Bitcoin. So hopefully that'll be my saving grace. Maybe the Maxis will forgive me for for my blasphemy. All right, be good, Joe.